We spend pretty much our entire lives talking, but how much do we really get what's happening just beneath the surface of our words? Well, in this explainer, we're going to crack the code of conversation itself. You know that feeling, right? Where you say something that feels completely obvious, but the person you're talking to, they just don't seem to get what you're actually saying. And it's super frustrating, but it turns out there's a really fascinating reason for it. Let's use this classic example, okay? You say, "Wow, I'm thirsty," kind of hoping your friend might grab you a water from the fridge, but instead they just go, "Me too," and that's it. The moment just passes. The words were simple, the grammar was perfect, so where did it all go wrong? All right, so to solve this little puzzle, we're gonna need our first clue. And it all starts with realizing that communication is about so much more than just what the words mean in a dictionary. Okay, this is where we get to bring in our secret weapon for today's explainer, discourse analysis. Basically, it's a way of looking at language not as just a string of sentences, but as this living, breathing thing that gets all its meaning from the context around it. Who's talking, where they are, and what they're really trying to do. And this is the key right here. The problem in our little thirsty scenario, it wasn't the words. It was the unsaid intention, that hidden meaning that just got totally lost in translation. To find it, we've got to dig a little deeper. So let's get to our second big clue. And honestly, this one is a total game changer. What if I told you that every single time you speak, you aren't just saying something, you're doing something? This is the core idea behind something called speech act theory. The idea is that our words are like tools we use to perform actions out in the real world. We don't just state facts, we make requests, we give orders, we make promises, we apologize. Language isn't a noun, it's a verb. So check this out. Every time we speak, we're actually performing 3 acts all at once. Let's go back to our example. The locutionary act, that's just the literal words, "I'm thirsty." The elocutionary act is the action you are trying to do, the hidden request for a drink. And the paralocutionary act is the effect you wanted, getting your friend to actually bring you one. Our communication failed right at that second level, the elocutionary act. And that is our big aha moment. You weren't just describing a feeling you were having, you were performing an action, the act of making a request. Your friend only heard the description, they completely missed the action. And it turns out we're dealing this stuff all the time, in all sorts of ways. We use assertives to state what we believe, directives to get someone to do something, and commissives to make promises. There are even declarations, which are words that literally change reality, like when someone says, "I now pronounce you married." Our "I'm thirsty" line was really an indirect directive, an attempt to get someone to do something. Okay, so if we're all constantly performing these hidden actions with our words, how on earth does conversation even work? Like, how is it not just total chaos all the time? Well, it turns out we're all playing by a set of invisible rules that we never even formally learned. A philosopher named Paul Grice had this brilliant idea. He suggested that conversation works because we all, on some deep level, assume that everyone is trying to cooperate to make meaning together. It's like we're playing a collaborative game. So, what are the rules of this game? Grice broke it down into 4 basic maxims. The maxim of quality, just be truthful. Quantity, give the right amount of info, not too much or too little. Relevance, stay on topic. And manner, try to be clear and not confusing. When conversations go well, it's usually because we're all following these rules without even thinking about it. So let's bring this back to our thirsty friend puzzle. The breakdown happened with the maxim of relevance. You assumed the relevance of saying, "I'm thirsty," was clearly that you wanted a drink. Your friend, though, didn't make that cooperative leap. They took your statement literally and completely missed its relevance as a request. All right, we've got our clues lined up. Hidden intentions, language as action, and these unspoken rules. Now let's look at the final piece of the puzzle, the glue that really holds a successful conversation together. This slide gives us the perfect way to think about it. Imagine cohesion is like the individual bricks, the grammar, the specific words that link sentences. But coherence? Coherence is the whole building. It's the overall meaning and logical sense of the conversation. And you can have a perfectly neat pile of bricks that doesn't actually form a building at all. And there it is. That's the solution to our puzzle. The conversation, "I'm thirsty," "me too," it had cohesion. The words linked up grammatically just fine, but it had zero coherence. That logical connection between a statement of fact and an intended request just wasn't made. The building of meaning simply collapsed. So, Why should you care about any of this? Because honestly, understanding these hidden layers isn't just some academic exercise. It's a practical tool. It's kind of like a communication superpower you can start using every single day. So, what's the big takeaway here? What can you start doing right now? Next time you're in a conversation, listen for the action hiding behind the words. Remember that you and the other person are cooperating to build meaning together, and focus on creating conversations that are truly coherent, where the real intention lands. And really, that's the whole point, to stop looking at language in a vacuum and start seeing how it actually works in our messy, complex, and fascinating real lives. That's the key to becoming a way more effective and empathetic communicator. So, now you've seen behind the curtain. You know the hidden code that powers our daily interactions. The only question left is, how are you going to use it to rewrite your own conversations?